So today we're going to be focusing and reviewing this half-breed here, the 4070 Ti Super. Now, this is probably going to be the only Super Series card that I review on this channel because this is the most interesting one to me. The 4070 Ti Super is basically the exact same thing as a 4070 Ti, and then a 4080 Super is basically the exact same thing as a 4080. But the 4070 Ti Super is just what the intro said. It's got the memory, bandwidth, and bus of a 4080, but more of the SM count of a 4070 Ti. And it's also using a 103 die. So this card here has the most kind of changes to it out of all of the Super Series refresh cards. Now, if you look at the specs of all three of these cards on paper, the 4070 Ti Super should perform closer to a 4070 Ti, especially when you do a max overclock on them. The 4070 Ti is very bandwidth limited, but if you just go on Afterburner and crank that memory slider all the way to the right, all of a sudden you remove the memory bandwidth bottleneck, right? Now the 4070 Ti Super has a 256-bit bus. So it kind of gives you a free bandwidth upgrade on the memory system. So what I want to find out is, does that performance advantage just vanish if you do a max overclock on a 4070 Ti? So the 4070 Ti Super right now comes in at $799, right? Actually, this model here, which was provided by MSI, comes in at around $850, but I had no idea MSI was actually sending me this card because I actually ordered another one with supporter money. So I actually ended up having two cards. But we're going to end up using this one for the video because it has a higher power limit than the MSRP one over here, right? And then I'll be giving this one away in the Discord because I don't need two cards. But we need to go and find out how much you can get these. They're not obsolete. They're called end-of-life models. We need to go see how much you can get these end-of-life models for right now. And spoiler alert, you can get these two cards over here for very good liquidation prices right now, which puts this card in a very tight spot. So at the time of recording this video, you can actually get a 4070 Ti off of Best Buy open box for $650. Now, there were a few on Newegg for $630, but they all sold out by the time I actually finished recording. And then on the Zotac open box store, you could pick up a 4080 for $830 shipped. The Best Buy one is still up, so I will leave affiliate links to that and the 4070 Ti down below in case you decide to pick any of them up. Use those links down below. So this video is going to be very simple. We're just going to take all three of these cards. We're going to do a max overclock on them. We're going to benchmark them on my max overclock 14900K DDR5 8000 system. And then we're just going to see where they lie. Okay, so first up, we've got OG Firestrike, a synthetic benchmark designed to scale perfectly. And here we have the 4070 Ti 11% faster than the 4070, and then the 4080 is 28% faster than a 4070 Ti. So 17% faster than that 4070 Ti Super. But as we all know, scaling in a synthetic benchmark doesn't necessarily mean scaling in the game. So let's move on. Okay, Time Spy up next, and then the 4070 Ti Super here is 7% faster than an OG 4070 Ti, and then the 4080 is a whopping 24% faster than a 4070 Ti. So that would mean it would make it 17% faster than a 4070 Ti Super. So we still have quite a big gap between the 4070 Ti Super and just a regular 4080. Next up, we got Port Royal, the ray tracing benchmark, and then the 4070 Ti Super is 10% faster than the original 4070 Ti. And then again, the 4080 here is just 24% faster than the 4070 Ti. So yeah, that 4080 is still gapping the other two cards. Shadow of the Tomb Raider 1080p, and all three of the cards are within margin of error, which means we are CPU bound. So nothing to look at here. Let's move on to 1440p. And in 1440p, the 4070 Ti Super is only 6% faster than the OG card, and then the 4080 is 18% faster than the OG card, which makes it 12% faster than a 4070 Ti Super. So if you are a 1440p gamer, so far you are better off picking up that 4070 Ti open box for $650. It's not worth the 6%. And then in 4K, we see the biggest jumps here. The extra bandwidth on that 4070 Ti Super is finally coming into play, giving it an 11% performance boost over the OG card. And then the 4080 also getting just mad scaling here, trumping both other cards. It's like the 4070 Ti Super has an identity crisis, trying to be a 4K card, but also not quite powerful enough to be a 4K card. We got 9% for the 4070 Ti Super over the OG card, and then the 4080's got 22%. And then in 4K, we actually see some significant W's here for the 4070 Ti Super. It's actually 15% faster than that OG 4070 Ti. So kind of the same trend as Tomb Raider here, where it looks like it's trying to be a 4K card with that extra bandwidth, but it really needs to be in a 4K resolution to make use of it. In 1080p and 1440p, that extra bandwidth doesn't really come into play too much over a 4070 Ti. And then you can see that trend continuing over into Assassin's Creed Valhalla in 1080p, where the 4070 Ti Super is only 4% faster than the OG 4070 Ti. So the bandwidth is not coming into play at 1080p, right? 1440p still very minor scaling on the cards. You can kind of see it trying to scale and it's teetering, but that memory bandwidth still doesn't really do too much in a 1440p game. Let's move over to 4K. And boom, there you go. So in 4K, you get that perfect scaling again. And now we're looking at an 11% increase over the OG card. So yeah, you can kind of see if you're kind of a 4K gamer, yeah, it's stuck in a rock and a hard place, honestly, right? The 4080 is a much better card for 4K, but then the 4070 Ti is so close to the Super when it comes to 1440p that you might as well save the $150, right? All right, the last game we're going to benchmark and we're going to finish strong. It's with Helldivers, the latest and greatest, best game to come out this year so far. And in this game as well, you can see the same trend as all the other games in 1080p, very, very, very little scaling on the new 4070 Ti Super. Now in 1440p, this was an interesting result where the 4070 Ti Super didn't scale at all, really, over the OG card. This was the first game that we saw this, actually. Now, this could have also just been the scene that I was benchmarking. Could have just been more CPU bound in that specific time and day and all that kind of stuff. So this could be an incorrect benchmark, but I did do it twice and it did come up with these results. So I'm going to post them here anyway. Helldivers is also a bit more heavy on the CPU than it is the graphics card than the other games. Or so I thought. And then you see the 4K numbers here, and the card isn't scaling as much as it was in all of the other games as well. So there's something going on here in Helldivers. I was using the latest drivers also, by the way. But there's something in this game making this card not scale like it usually does. Now, the only thing that I can think of is maybe the cache size on the die. But at the end of the day, the 4070 Ti Super is far closer to the 4070 Ti than it is the actual OG 4080. Now, when I saw that the FPS numbers were so close, there was one more thing that I wanted to check. GPU utilization and power draw. So very interestingly here, the GPU usage on all three of the cards was 100%. None of them were throttling, none of them were power limited. But the two cards up top, the 4070 Ti and the 4070 Ti Super, they were actually pulling the exact same power, which I thought was actually super awesome, but also intriguing as well. So the 4070 Ti Super is actually just as efficient as the OG card, and you get more FPS. So that's like a huge W for me. So when reviewing a graphics card, you can review it two ways, right? You can review it in a vacuum, or you can review it based on cost per FPS, per wattage power draw, right? Now, if I were to review this graphics card in a vacuum, this would be my new favorite RTX 4000 series card. Basically, they were able to increase the performance of it and keep the power draw as low as a 4070 Ti, which is fantastic. I love that. I love low power draw, high performance cards. But you take it out of that vacuum all of a sudden, and now you can pick up a 4070 Ti for about $650, and it basically performs the same in 1440p and 1080p. And as long as you crank that memory slider on the 4070 Ti, you're not going to be bottlenecked in any way. So basically, you're paying $150 more for 4 more gigabytes of RAM. You wouldn't use this really in 4K. I mean, you could, it's viable in 4K, but you would really want a 4080 or up for a 4K machine, right? So in 1440p and 1080p, the performance is just too close to that 4070 Ti. So now you pick this thing up for $800, or you just go get an open box 4080 for $50 more, and the performance is substantially better, right? So that's why I was saying that this card specifically is caught between a rock and a hard place. The 4070 Ti is too cheap and too close to the performance of it. And on the same token, the 4080 is too close to the price of this thing, and then you get way more performance, right? So this card is a tough sell, let's be honest. But in a vacuum by itself, if the other two cards didn't exist, which eventually they won't exist, they will sell out, and they're not making any more of those, right? This card by itself is a fantastic card. But for those of you that want the highest performance with the lowest power draw, this card is the king. And if that describes you and you live somewhere in the world that has very high power costs and every single watt matters to you, I will leave affiliate links down below to this 4070 Ti Super. Using those affiliate links really helps the channel out with no cost to you. Anyway, guys, you've got the max overclock numbers for this card now, and I hope you learned something. And if you like the content, hit that subscribe button, do all that YouTube SEO stuff. Like, share, subscribe, comment down below what you think of this model specifically, or the 4070 Ti Super in general. And I will see you guys in the next one. Talk to you later.
Hi, kitty. Hi. It's my good baby. Hi, my good kitty. You having a good scoop? Look at those toe beans. Look at that foot pressure. Look at those feet. My good kitty. You tired? My good baby.